Hey there everyone, it's Kristi. Sorry for the little bit of a delay. I think I had my volume turned down, so I didn't hear the normal thing that you hear when the video goes live. Anyway, this video is brings up the topic of Matthew Santoro and his recent video on his experience of domestic abuse, and then the reply that was made by Nicole Arbour and the issue that it raised. Now, in this video, I'm not going to address the issue of abuse itself because there are a lot of people out there already doing it. The reason that I'm making this video is because I'm interested in my viewers and other people who come through here. I would like to collect information about people's responses to this situation, because I think it presents it's not that it's complicated, but it has an element of abuse where it's a man discussing abuse by a woman, psychological abuse, and he recounts one instance of physical abuse. And we also have a situation where the woman has made a video with her side of it. So it's a classic he said, she said scenario. It's also the case where the kind of abuse that happened, I have seen some people being dismissive of it and other people taking it seriously. So there are times, I think, when there are issues like, let's say, stranger rape, where people have a consensus, but then as it becomes acquaintance rape and there's not drugs, but there's alcohol or impaired judgment, people think that there are blurrier lines and that it becomes more gray, or that there's more possibility to put some onus on everybody involved, not just the perpetrator or the alleged perpetrator. And in this case, the situation that was described is sort of falls more in that not black and white area. It is a he said, she said, and the description of things, people might not immediately jump to one person's side or the other based on the story. So because of that, I found it, this topic, I want to study it and research it and people's reactions to it, especially coming from the men's rights corner of YouTube and the internet, because one of the things that they often bring up is this idea that there isn't enough done to highlight the problems of male victims of domestic abuse, and that there needs to be more advocacy and attention paid to those issues. And now that there is an opportunity to do that in the YouTube community, I'm interested to see what their responses are. So for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, and I can understand that because this is, it's always a pretty big news day, especially if you're in the States. There's quite a lot of headlines with international news and domestic politics. But for within the YouTube world, I had not heard of Matthew Santoro, but I had heard of Nicole Arbour. Apparently, he's a very big YouTube personality. He's got like 1 million subscribers. He's got a big channel, big YouTuber. And he was in a relationship with Nicole Arbour, who most people associate with her video on fat shaming. She's a comedian who does videos, and she got a lot of flack for a video that people found quite offensive. Those two were together in a relationship, and I'm going to try to relate the events as appropriately as I can, just based on my research, and I don't want to present anything in terms of a bias or a side. I'm just going to present what I think. I've done the research, and I have tried to find the facts as best I could. The video that was made by Matthew was recorded in September, and this information comes from the video itself. He made it on a certain day in September to deal with his own problems. And in that video, which I would recommend you watch, and I will link in the description box below, he gives his side of his experience or his story. I don't know, like allegations, but he related his experience in his video and of what he described as psychological abuse in an instance of physical abuse. And it's quite clear if you watch the video that he is sincerely upset and in pain over this issue. And he talks about the stereotypes and problems that men face dealing when they are victimized or they feel victimized, and the things that sort of how it related to his experience. Then what happened was he had that video in private, and for some reason it got switched to public. And as a consequence of it going public, a bunch of people saw it and thumbed it up. So because the response was so positive, he says in his video that he left it public, and he also put resources for domestic abuse hotlines and other information in the description box as a resource for other men going through a similar experience. Now, I came into the storyline after the release of that video. I first saw this covered on Young Turks, and I'll also link that below just so you guys can see what I've seen. That at the time, it was only his video out, and I wasn't entirely sure that, well, he didn't name drop anyone in his video, but there was a lot of speculation on YouTube because he had been in a long-term relationship with Nicole Arbour that she was the one to whom he was referring in his video. She then came out with her own video giving her perspective and her side of the story and how she perceives things as happening and perceives his behavior. And that's, I guess, kind of where it's been left. Now people around YouTube are picking this up and talking about it as an issue, and that's where I'm kind of coming into this. So again, I don't want to address the allegations or take a side on this. I think there are a lot of people out there who are doing it, but what I do want to pay attention to is the way that it's discussed within the YouTube community and within sort of the men's rights community. And I guess in some ways, you know, like I guess I'm a feminist, so I'm talking about it as well. And in particular, I want to see how people react given the scenario that is presented in front of us. Now, I know that I said I'm not going to give my opinion because that's not really what I want to make this video about. But there was someone who made a video. I didn't agree with his title. I think his title, he just says, he kind of puts some blame on Matthew Santoro, and I don't kind of feel comfortable with that phrase. But the video his name is called High Pockets, and while he's giving his opinion, I do generally think he's speaking from the heart. And in the course of his video, he talks about the factors that make it harder for somebody to leave an abusive relationship. And he's not saying, you know, that if you don't have all of these factors, you're not in an abusive relationship. I think he makes an effort to go through the video talking about the ways in which people face different barriers, and those differences can be that you're a man or a woman, or it can be that you're married or you're not married in that relationship, or that relationship has kids or not. And he recognizes all of these as different things that might prevent someone who is being abused from getting out of that very dangerous situation. So I will link that video. I hesitate to use the word recommend because, again, I don't agree with his opinions, but I think that there are a lot of things in that video that made me think about, you know, he presented it in a way that made me think, and he's not coming from a place of anger. I think the High Pockets is speaking from the heart. And so I'll leave a link to that in terms of addressing the issue of abuse in this situation. But in addition to his video, I've seen other people discuss it in terms of news stories. So sites that follow internet drama have covered this, and some other news stories like news sites like Young Turks are also picking up on this. There are also increasingly just ordinary YouTubers who are making comment videos on this situation, and those are the ones that I'm particularly interested in. Now, when I did some research on this last night and watched several videos, and while it's still early days, I mean, the video from Matthew was, I think, accidentally released on the 10th, or on the 10th he left it open or whatever. So this is this is early days. There might be more videos, you know, coming and planned over the next week or two. But I've not seen anybody I have taken up a position, like an identity of being a men's rights activist, or anyone who's really like brought anti-feminism, feminism debates into their video. A lot of the videos are focused on the people and the personalities rather than taking this and looking at it as a larger issue. So the only thing that I've seen so far online has been at a Voice for Men, and sadly this was what that person had to say. Now, I'm not going to share the screen because I don't want to put this person's name up, and it's not really doxing, but it's an example of the mentality that I think is the problem. And it was a bit depressing to see that that was really the only comment on the Voice for Men thread. But this person says, I'm pretty sure it's a guy because he says he's a guy. So this guy says, quote, "I can certainly empathize with him. It's pretty harsh, but he is acting very much like a woman and is the product of a feminized culture. It is sad that in order to get the abuse of women recognized, we have to whine and cry like women. No one ever takes you seriously unless you bawl like a little girl. What he describes is a standard relationship with a woman, the manipulation, the guilt, jealousy, pushing your friends away, taking up your time and energy. Every relationship I've ever been in with a woman has been exactly like this, exactly what he describes. But this is the 21st century male. He's never been in a fight, never been hit. When a woman hits me, and I have been hit by a woman, it's a fucking joke. I've been jumped 110 blonde with anger issues can fuck off. Women cultivate their victimhood, cultivate sensitivity and offensibility. The modern male does the same. He's trained by women to be histrionic and hysterical in the face of adversity. That's just not healthy. Feminism has sold men on the idea that the solution to their problems is to cry and express their emotions in female ways. I just don't think so. Men are supposed to get in touch with their feminine side. I have no feminine side. I'm a man. I have a masculine side. Men can cry and grieve, but a few slaps and a manipulative girlfriend kind of makes me blasé." That's the only sort of official kind of response that I've seen in terms of, you know, being on a site that is for men's rights activists. And I don't want to characterize everybody in the men's rights activist movement with those views. However, it is a data point. And so what I'm asking from you guys is that if you see articles discussing the situation or the issue around it from somebody who is, even if they say I'm not an MRA but kind of thing, those types of individuals, I'm still interested in their responses. And then if there are people who are typically aligned with anti-feminist rhetoric and they have a podcast that's an hour and a half long and there happens to be, you know, 20 minutes on this, if you guys see that and will flag me up or just let me know if those kinds of videos become available, I would be appreciative. I'll be keeping an eye out, but you know, 10 eyes are better than one. I guess probably 20 eyes are better than two, because, right? So that was it really. I just wanted to raise awareness that this issue is going on, that it's because it is not a sort of a black and white, it's easy to pick out a good guy, bad guy situation. It is an interesting way to look at how the men's rights activist movement will deal with it. Also, because we have videos of both people. We have a he said, she, literally a he said, she said, and I, again, will put both of their videos in the description box below so you can hear both sides and, you know, approach it and do your own research and see what you think. From my understanding, there are no charges being pressed, so this is not about someone going to court or being convicted or anything like that. At this point, it's more of a discussion about the nature of abuse when men allege abuse against women and how they are perceived and treated and whether or not there are double standards in those situations. So that's it. I should say, just to be very clear, that most of the videos that I've seen so far that have just been ordinary, well, I want to say ordinary, men, it's mostly men I haven't seen any women make a video on this yet, but generally the men who I would say are outside the feminist, anti-feminist discourse, guys who just live their lives, they've been generally sympathetic on this issue, very different from what I've just read out. One video of a guy, I couldn't quite tell if he was making fun of him or he just had really bad timing in that he put up a video asking Matthew Santoro questions like right after this came up, and so I thought his questions were about what had happened with Nicole Arbour, but after watching about 10, well, maybe 7 minutes of it, it's like, I don't know if he knows what's going on, so I don't think that video should count. And I thought at first he was just trying to make fun of him, but if he was doing a very bad job of it, so I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt and think that he has really bad timing rather than trying to be comedic. That's about it, really. So yeah, look for videos in the description box below once this has finished processing. And also in the next, what time is it now? 45. I have to meet someone in 45 minutes. I have one more live stream that I'm going to be doing probably then after dinner. So it'll be around, let's call it 2 hours time from now. I'll be doing a live stream where I'm going to announce my hangout for my patrons. My January hangout that's going to take place in February. and my upcoming appearance on my channel by Steve Shives. We're going to talk about Jessica Jones from a feminist perspective on Sunday, which is going to be amazing. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about it not just from the feminist perspective, but also cinematically and the narrative and the psychological elements. So we're just going to kind of go, you know, fanboy, fangirl over Jessica Jones. I think that's really what the talk is going to be about. And that's going to be at 5 o'clock my time on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, but I'll do a whole video about that in about 2 hours. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for your time and attention. If you have anything to link, please go ahead and put it in the description box below, and I'll collect all of those. And I thank you in advance for your time and attention in this matter. I've been Kristi. You've been awesome, and I'll see you very soon.